You may have heard that Magic the Gathering is releasing a Lord of the Rings set in about a week from now. And it's true. And it's not technically a Commander set, but the cards in it are fantastic for Commander. And by extension, Historic Brawl, which is like Commander for people who don't have friends. Like me. And if you're like me, you're also going to want to play some of these cards outside of those Commander formats because they are technically legal in Modern, Vintage, Legacy, and also Alchemy and Historic. But Historic Brawl and Commander are going to be the focus of this video, talking about the best commanders in Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. Now, the criteria for best here is, I think it would be fun. I think you can build it. I think there's cool cards to build around for it. So, without further ado, let us begin with the finest of cards, including this horse, Shadowfax. Lord of Horses, not just a cool card, but also a uncommon commander that is really sweet because it is full of flavor. Oh my gosh. Shadowfax, Lord of Horses, shows you the meaning of haste because it has the reminder text for haste. Did you know that creatures with haste can attack and tap as soon as they enter the battlefield under your control? Wow, amazing. Also, all your horses, including this horse, have haste, which is great because you're going to want to attack fast. Shadowfax is a 5-mana 4/4 where, whenever it attacks, you can put a creature card with a lesser power from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. What, you don't think that's awesome? I think that's awesome. There's a lot of creatures that have technically a pretty low power level, but maybe they have double strike or give your attackers double strike. It's a really cool way to sneak attack things in. They stay on the battlefield. If they're cheeky flyers or maybe they have enter the battlefield abilities, you get those too. Shadowfax, my all-star for uncommons in this set, but there's actually a duo of cards that I want to talk about here because they have very similar stacking abilities. Elrond, Master of Healing. Elrond, Master of Healing is part of the elf tribe for not just magic, but for Lord of the Rings, which has a specific theme that I haven't seen before for elves, which is scrying. I've seen scrying as a payoff for certain types of wizards and certain types of sphinxes, but Elrond, Master of Healing, whenever you scry, doesn't matter how deep, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to X target creatures, where X is the number of cards you look at while scrying. So, for example, if you scry 2, that's going to be 2 different targets. They each get +1/+1 counters. And I said before I was going to tie that into another card. That is Arwen. Arwen here is a 2-mana 2/2. Whenever you scry, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, has an activatable scry ability. These two just go really great. Back to Elrond, though. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. This is payoff. I love that. And since you're scrying, you know what's on top of your deck. So Elrond and Arwen, my favorite little elf duo here. I think that it's much better to have Elrond as your commander, even though he costs 2 more. He's got a lot more flexible abilities. And, I mean, it's nice that he can target multiple things and get lots and lots of counters built up from it. Let's move away from blue and into green and black. Shelob, Child of Engoyant. How the hell do you say that name? I don't know. I did watch Lord of the Rings movies to try to figure out how to say a name good. I did read the books as a teenager, and I said, wow, I just kind of blur out these names in my head because I don't know how to say them. And nothing has changed. I just kind of make it up, but I know she is Shelob. And Shelob is a 6-mana 8/8. Whew! And Spider Tribal on top of that. Death Touch and Ward 2 gives all your other spiders Death Touch and Ward 2. No, she does not have reach. She's a cave spider. Cave spiders don't need reach. Whenever another creature dealt damage this turn by a spider you control dies, you make a copy of that creature. But it's a token, and it's a food. That means you can't attack or block with it, but you can eat it, getting some life. It is a token, so you get whatever token payoff you want. And it just has every other ability, every other passive ability of the dead creature. That's a really, really cool ability. And even if this card is the only spider in your deck and you're just packed full of bite spells, things that have Shelob deal damage or fight against other creatures, it's a really, really cool ability. And I'm sure that your opponents are going to love seeing you eat their creatures. Okay, maybe they won't love it. I'll love it, though. And also, I like any excuse to run Spider Tribal. I'm somebody who has an Ishkana deck, so this is just like, oh, Ishkana, you You were my commander. You were my commander. It's Shelob time! Staying with Golgari. Smeagol! Helpful guide! Oh, he's just a little guy. Just look at him. Oh, I just want to pick him up and drop him off the side of a building. He's a 3-mana 4/2 and a halfling horror. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died under your control this turn, the ring tempts you. So that is payoff or sacrifice. When the ring tempts you, you stack up to 4 abilities onto whoever's your ring bearer. Your ring bearer becomes legendary if it isn't already. It gets like a loot ability, a weird sacrifice ability. It's kind of nice. But whenever the ring tempts you, which again you can trigger by having a creature die under your control during your turn, target opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal land. You get that land. And it comes into play tapped, sure, but it's yours. You steal the dirt. I love anything that lets me play my opponent's cards. The rest of the cards also go into your opponent's graveyard, so you can upset their mill, you can just kind of throw things in their graveyard. You might want to include some graveyard hate in this deck, honestly, because otherwise reanimator decks will feast. Kind of wish you could target yourself, by the way, with that self-mill. I understand why they don't. It would be a little strong. 2 colors, though, maybe not enough for you, so let's move into 4 colors. Aragorn, the Uniter! I think that you should play this card as either humans or how many colors can I put into this deck and have fun. There's also like a potential for a burn deck, kind of like a Burgy deck. Aragorn the Uniter's kind of nuts. A 4-mana 5/5. Sure, that's cool. Whenever you cast a white spell, make a 1/1 human. Nice. Blue spell, scry 2. Red spell? 3 damage to target opponent. Okay. And whenever you cast a green spell, +4/+4 until the end of turn. To any creature. Doesn't have to be yours, doesn't have to be Aragorn. This is just like a lot of good stuff, and it's not a 4-color creature. I think Aragorn is good because he does whatever you want him to do. I actually personally am planning on building Aragorn as a offshoot of Urabrask. I want to make a deck that's technically mono red Aragorn. That's just like, yeah, we're gonna see how many red spells we can cast this turn so we can kill our opponent. I'm gonna make it work, you'll see. It's gonna be like Urabrask, Burgy. We'll throw in some weird little I can infinitely cast the same card from my hand combos. Oh, we'll make it work. And 4 colors. We're talking about 5 colors now. This is probably the card you thought I was going to start the video with. Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil is the stupid broken Saga's commander that we all crave. Now listen, there's a Saga commander already out there. And her name is Satsuki. And she sucks. I know I have a Satsuki deck and the worst card in it is Satsuki. Now, Tom Bombadil, dang, look at this guy. He's a little bit too good, actually, and I really wish they would remove some of this text from him. Too late now, they already printed the cards. 5 mana, 4/4. Okay, sure. He's not too big and chunky, but as long as there's 4 more lore counters among sagas you control, Tom Bombadil has hexproof and indestructible, so he's hard to kill. And whenever the final chapter ability of a saga you control resolves, reveal from the top of your library cards until you find another saga, and just put it into the battlefield. Not into your hand, onto the battlefield. Only triggers once per turn, but that means you can chain your 1-mana sagas into your 5-mana sagas, into your incredibly good removal, your Elspeth Conquers Deaths, into your Eldest Reborns, into all the good stuff. Tom Bombadil is so much value, and because it's 5 colors, you can, play all the sagas. My number 1 complaint with Satsuki was actually not her ability, her cost, or anything else. It was that she only could use green and white sagas, whereas black actually has my favorite sagas in it, things like Elspeth's Nightmare. It's just good. Eldest Reborn, I mentioned it before. Cruelty of Gix. These are all really, really good black sagas. And Tom Bombadil is gonna have a ball with them all as he sings his merry little songs and sagaliciouses your opponent. I've got 2 more cards to talk about here, and they're evil. Very evil. Saruman of many colors, an Esper deck that does Esper crime, and it steals specifically from your opponent's graveyards. This has Ward, makes your opponent discard an enchantment, instant, or sorcery if they want to target Saruman, and also as, well, a reward for putting that kind of card into your opponent's graveyard. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, each opponent mills 2 cards. By the way, that does not say on your turn. That's on any player's turn. Whenever you cast your second spell on any player's turn, each opponent mills 2 cards. But this isn't a mill deck. When one or more cards are milled this way, exile target enchantment, instant, or sorcery card with equal or lesser mana value than that second spell you cast from an opponent's graveyard. Copy it and cast it for free. I don't know how good this actually is, but I really love the ability. I like Esper Crime. I like to play my opponent's cards. We've been over this. I said it with Smeagol. I'll say it here too. And the one who he serves, the Dark Lord Sauron. He's the 6-mana 7/6 in Grixis, and has forcing your opponent to sacrifice a legendary artifact or creature. Are you dropping that ring in the volcano? I might. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you amass Oryx 1, so you're going to build up an amass army. And whenever an army you control deals combat damage to a player, the ring tempts you. And whenever the ring tempts you, you may discard your hand and draw 4 cards. A huge slew of ability, and a mass payoff. So amass is an ability introduced in War of the Spark. They got a whole lot better in this because we have amass orcs. So we have amass zombies and amass orcs, but if you amass both, you end up with one army that's just both an orc and a zombie army. This is payoff for having armies. There's other things that buff up your armies, making them bigger, both in this set and in the other sets. And there's also some payoff for +1/+1 counters you might want to throw into here. But most importantly, you're just building up an army and you're swinging in. I actually built a Grixis Amass deck when War of the Spark came out. It had Nicol Bolas as its commander. This was a standard Brawl deck. And, well, Nicol Bolas was the best part of the deck, as you might imagine. It also had a zombies sub-theme, which you don't have here. But you still have a big, big token that's going to kill some of your opponents. And those are my favorite cards in this set to have as your commander, both for Historic Brawl and for Commander. Now, if there were some cards that you think I missed, you may be thinking of cards that actually weren't in the set and are in, instead, the supplemental Commander set, the ones that are not technically coming to Modern or Arena or, well, anywhere other than Commander. It's so strange that they have these cards that are separate. I know they do that so they can have, like, power levels be higher, but it would be nice to have all these cards come to Arena for Historic Brawl so I can play with them. And you can play with them. But they didn't do that. I really hope that I see a lot of fun builds with these cards and other cards in the set, though. I think that they made some really cool themes and some cool payoffs for cards that didn't otherwise have really great build-arounds for our commanders. And we also now have the ring tempts you as something we can build around. Smeagol, for example, for me, I might build a little bit around the ring tempting you. There's also a Frodo card that similarly is built around the ring tempting you. It's kind of a phage ability. It's really fun looking, and I'm going to probably try that card out too. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. This is the, I think the second of 3 different videos I have about Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth that's coming out this week. So if you like this one, be sure to check out the other 2, where I talk about equipment-specific card that's in the set, because there's a lot of it and it's really interesting, and the top 5 auto-include cards, 1 in each color, that you should put into your decks, because they're really, 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 really good, and you should be playing them! I look forward to this set. I hope you do too, and I'll see you in the queue as you play some of these commanders in Historic Brawl. And to the commander players, like, I don't know, I'll invite you over for dinner and drinks, and we'll get really, really wasted, and I'm going to play my Smeagol deck, and I'm going to make the Smeagol voice the entire time, and then you're not going to want to come over anymore. At least I'm honest. Bye.